Now, we've mentioned a couple of times in previous clips that businesses, firms are in business to maximise their profits, and we've expressed that as the difference between total revenue and total cost. Our focus in this little clip is directed specifically at cost of production. We'll add the revenue side of it in a bit later, but right now our focus needs to be on costs, and in particular costs in what we call the short run, a time frame during which some variables or some factors of production are variable, but some are fixed, and that's going to pose a bit of a problem for us. In the long run, of course, all factors of production are variable and can be altered. I want to give you a little example, so just give me a second, I'll get to my computer. Let's consider a really simple little task here. Booklet stapling. Remember, we are constrained in the short run with a fixed stock of capital. So capital assets here, our table, our room size, our stapler. Our variable assets are our labour. Our task is to staple some paper together and put it into the box for distribution. So what we want to look at here is the contribution that each student is going to make to production. So let's have a look at that. So in our column 1, this is our number of workers, our variable input labour. In column 2, our total product. In column 3 here, our average product, where we'll be dividing the total output by the number of people involved. And we'll get to this one at the end, little special column over here for the change in total product that occurs when we add a variable unit of labour. We're going to call that our marginal product, or extra or additional product. So what do we see here? We see that one person working on their own can produce 10 boxes, and if we divide the 10 output by 1, we get an average of 10. Now we add a second unit of labour, and we notice straight away that total product rises to 25. And if we look at our average over here, we can see that our average is actually rising. So 25 divided by 2 is 12.5. A third person is added to the production process, and again output rises, but notice this time by an amount less than the previous unit of labour. So what we can see here is that output's risen by 12, but if we divide 37 by 3, we can see that our average product is in fact falling. Now, subsequently, when we add our 4th, 5th and 6th workers, etc., yes, output is increasing, but by little bits each time. So what's happening here? What's actually happening here is that the returns we're getting to what we call our marginal or extra unit of labour is actually diminishing. So in actual fact, when we added the third worker after the second one, what we found is that there is diminishing marginal returns. Now, when we get down to the bottom here, the addition of the 8th worker adds nothing whatsoever, and in fact the 9th worker is actually causing output to fall. So let's have a look at what we call our marginal product. So our first worker added 10, that was great. Our second worker raised output by 15 units, but remember our third worker actually only added 12. So diminishing returns to our variable factor has actually set in. Now you can see why this might be. The second person added some efficiencies in terms of labour specialisation, one person stapling, one person putting the stuff in the box, etc. The third person, well, maybe speed it up some, but we can see that some inefficiencies have begun to creep in here, and as we add more and more units of labour, then we find that the contribution of each one successively diminishes until, in fact, the 9th worker crowds up the room so badly that, in fact, the productivity is really being impacted upon, and actually total output's actually fallen. So what does this look like in terms of graphing our data? Well, our red curve tells us that our total product curve shows that output is rising initially at an increasing rate, then it's still rising but now at a decreasing rate. it maxes out, it reaches a peak here, naturally. You can see it's 63 units of output. Our average product of labour takes on what we call a slight hill shape. And as you can see, it too rises initially, but then it starts to fall. And of course, it's falling because of the impact of what we call diminishing marginal productivity. So our marginal product was rising initially and then beginning to fall and fall. Now, observe something interesting here. Marginal product is 0 at this point, and of course, total product is maxed out up here. So you can imagine if we drew a tangential straight line at this point to get the slope of our total product curve, it would in fact be a line parallel to our x-axis and would have a slope of 0. So the slope of our total product curve is in fact marginal product. So what else do we find here? Have a look here. As long as the marginal value, in this case the value of our additional labour, as long as the marginal value is greater than the average will continue to rise. Now, this is an arithmetic relationship which actually takes on some significance as our analysis unfolds. And of course, it's true also that when the marginal value is less than the average actually begins to fall away. So, in our next clip, we'll actually make these links between productivity and costs.